Welcome! In this video, I'd like to show you how to build your food order or requisition order, as well as then determining what items you're going to purchase and then performing a cost analysis. Let's dive in. Now in this scenario, I have a recipe here for cheese blintzes with a berry compote. I need to build a food order for it. Traditionally, food orders would come to you, so you may not even see that recipe. But for this class, we're going from a recipe to a food order all the way through the process. So let's begin. Our recipe, again, is a cheese blintz with a berry compote. It yields 15 blintzes. For this example, we're using the recipe as is. To make the crepes, a cheese blintz is a crepe that's cooked on one side, filled, rolled, and served. So here we have, to make the crepes, 3 eggs, 3 yolks, and all the ingredients required, including this butter melted and as needed for cooking, which does mean that there could be some additional needed here. So we'll remember that when we're building this food order. Then for the filling, I need 1 pound of ricotta cheese, a half a pound of mascarpone cheese, and so forth. Also included here is a warm berry compote, where I'll need fresh berries, a cup of sugar, half a cup to a cup of sugar, as well as razzmatazz water and mint. Now to put these all together, there might be other garnishing or other components, so it's important to scroll down and make sure there's nothing further in the recipe. Okay, we're ready to get started. Let's start with the first ingredient, 3 eggs. I'm going to go over to my food order here and start listing the items. So my first thing is eggs that I'll need. So I'll include the eggs, and then the amount at this point is 3 each. I'm going to say 3 each because if it just lists 3, we might think that's 3 dozen, as eggs commonly are sold in. On our food order, we're worried about the item and the amount here, and we want this to be in purchasable amounts. So making sure that we're listing each or pounds or dozen, whatever the unit might be. This costing part we'll come back to a little later. So the next ingredient is 3 yolks. Well, I could order egg yolks separately, but at this point it doesn't give me an ounce or anything individual, so I'm just going to go ahead and increase the number of eggs to include 6 then. At this point I have 6 total eggs that I'm ordering. Now your next step is extremely important. Don't go through here and look for the rest of the dairy ingredients and then move on to a new category. Continue down with the next item. Now the next item happens to be water. Water is readily available and mandated to be available in every kitchen, so it does not need to be listed. Our next ingredient is milk. So let's go ahead and list milk here, and 6 ounces is what is ordered. We know that we can measure and purchase 6 ounces, so that's good. Our next ingredient is sugar. Well, now this is a different category. Here we were in dairy and eggs, so I'm going to bump down a little bit here and include sugar. Sugar, I need 3 ounces at this point. Next ingredient is salt. It does not list the type of salt, but I'm going to go ahead and specify fine salt because I know for a baking formula, such as this crepe batter, I'm going to use fine salt. I'm looking for half a teaspoon. I'm going to include that exact amount for now. Flour is my next ingredient. I'll list flour, but I am going to specify AP. Even though the recipe doesn't, I want to be specific for my purchaser. I need 7 ounces. Next ingredient is butter. That goes back up to this dairy section here. I'm going to include butter. If I don't put anything, that refers to unsalted butter. I need 2.5 ounces, but possibly a little bit more for cooking. So I'm going to go ahead and include 4 ounces. To have an extra tablespoon of butter in the kitchen is not a bad thing. All right, let's go down to the next one. We have ricotta cheese. Let's go ahead and add our ricotta up here, and we're looking for 1 pound. Next, we have our mascarpone, and that's half a pound. Then we have vanilla extract that'll be found under our dry goods. I'll just list as vanilla and the 1 teaspoon. And then next we have our vanilla bean paste. And again, the 1 teaspoon. 10x sugar comes next. And that's 1 pound, or to taste, but 1 pound hopefully will cover us there. Scrolling down, we see our next component is the warm berry compote. So we need 1 pound of fresh berries. There are 4 different berries specified here, so I listed them all separately. This is a separate category now as we're talking about produce items. 1 pound divided by 4 gives me 4 ounces for each of these berries. Next I have sugar, half a cup to 1 cup. So I'll go ahead and account for 1 cup. Now I already have sugar listed, but notice I had 3 ounces. Now I have 3 ounces plus 1 cup. Razzmatazz is now an alcohol, so a separate category again, and I need half a cup. Water, again, is readily available, so I don't need to list it. And then we have mint next. 1 tablespoon of minced mint. Now, from prior weeks, you've learned that minced means it is already chopped up when you're measuring out that tablespoon. So we're going to have to look and consult to see how much 1 tablespoon actually weighs. For now, I'm going to go ahead and list the mint, and I'm going to write 1 ounce. By writing 1 ounce, I know that I am going to have at least 2 to 3 tablespoons of mint that I can then mince. So for now, I'm going to make this estimate. I'm not going to get hung up on exactly how much it is. Realize if this was real life and real purchasing, yes, you would need to have a better idea. But I'm going to go ahead and estimate from experience that that's how much we need. So at this point, I have my full food order complete. And when I say complete, I'm listing each item and the ingredient amounts that I need. Now, realize again, I went in order of the recipe ingredients. I skipped around to the different categories and built my food order as I went. If I needed an extra category or an extra line in here, I can click this plus and it'll give me a new row. I can then highlight it and delete row in order to maximize my time and again efficiency and not missing any ingredients. It's very easy when you're just pulling out the dairy ingredients to miss an ingredient here or there. Now let's go back and actually look at our amounts and make sure that they're purchasable. 6 each is perfectly fine for eggs. I could also record that as half a dozen. I'm going to go ahead and put half a dozen purely for the idea that when I cost out the eggs, my unit cost is going to be by the dozen. So I want to go ahead and include a more common unit here. Milk doing 6 ounces is perfectly fine. Butter, 4 ounces instead of 1/4 pound is fine. If I'd like to put the 1/4 pound, I could fix that just like I did the eggs. The ricotta cheese, mascarpone, all are in good amounts. Now the sugar, 3 ounces plus 1 cup. Now I know from experience that your sugar is going to weigh about 6 ounces per cup. That would be something I could look in the back of my textbook in Appendix C and see what 1 cup weighs. So for now, I'm going to assume that's 6 ounces and change this then to a total of 9 ounces. I don't want to have mixed units here. Salt, I'm going to leave at half a teaspoon. Flour, 7 ounces is fine. Vanilla bean paste, and 10x sugar. All of that is okay. Now notice here I just listed sugar. By far the generic sugar is going to be your granulated sugar. Milk refers to whole milk. Eggs refer to large eggs. Butter refers to unsalted butter. These are common terms that you'll find, so it does not need to be specified. However, you could add the word granulated here. And this 10x, you could start by saying sugar and then categorize it specifically as 10x. However you are purchasing and what operation you're working in is what's going to determine how you do this. However, I strongly urge that you stay consistent throughout your process. Going down to my strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, these 4 ounces are okay amounts. However, fresh produce comes in dry pints, not by the weight. So if I was getting an 18-ounce container of blueberries, okay, no problem. Here, getting my strawberries is going to come by the pint, by the quart. It might say a 4-pound container. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and leave these as is because this is a weight here. And no matter what it comes in, I can always convert that to a weight and get my unit price by weight. The reason this is important with the units is because if I have the price of mint per ounce, 1 ounce times that price gives me my total cost. If I know the cost per blueberries for each ounce, 4 times that cost will give me the cost of my 4 ounces of blueberries. For my flour, maybe I know what the cost per pound is, but instead I could figure out and determine what the cost per ounce is, so I could take that times my 7 here to determine what my cost is. Again, we'll come back to that here in just a few minutes. But in regards to building your food order and having measurable amounts, all of these are able to be purchased and determine a cost from. So this is as far as I need to go. If you prefer, you could sort these and put them in alphabetical order. However, that's just an extra step that you'll need to take. And when we're just looking at this one food order, we can continue on at this point. Now that I have my food order, my next step is to use my pricing guide, or my price sheet, as I've noted before. Now, what products are you going to use here? It makes sense to use the products that you're going to have to cost out and have to order. That's what this food order is. These are the products that are needed, and these are the ones you're going to have to order. So these are the ones that you're going to have to know what the price is, how they're coming in from the vendors. Now, a lot of this is from experience. You're not going to have to do this every single time you're purchasing something. But for this exercise, I'd like you to walk through this. Go ahead and include all the information, all those ingredients that you need, and then look them up on your different vendor sheets. Here on the dairy price log, we can see the price and information for eggs, our first item. I can go ahead and click on this and copy this information here, this UPC number, to my sheet. Here I can see it's in a 30 dozen case, and I have the brand name. $34.43 is my price. I have gone ahead and transferred the information onto my price sheet. Notice for the number of units, I noted that it is 30 dozen. Again, this is one box of 30 dozen eggs, so 30 dozen eggs, but also I noted 360 each. When I'm determining the cost per unit, I want to determine what the cost is per dozen, but I also want to determine what the cost is for each item, as sometimes I may only have 2 eggs that I need to cost out. So what I'm going to do is take my calculator, $34.43 divided by 30 gives me my cost per dozen. Now I always want to round this up. So $1.14, but I'm rounding up to $1.15 per dozen. Now I want to take and figure out what the cost is for each egg. It's important not to take my rounded number here and then divide it to go further. Instead, I'm going to go back to my case cost here of $34.43 and divide that by 360. This is my cost per egg. Again, notice I'm going to round up, so 10 cents per egg. I include both, again, for the idea of what is my actual unit up above. If my cost is, or my unit is, per dozen, then I'll use $1.15. So here I have a half a dozen eggs. I could take this then and times this by that $1.15. That would give me my total cost for those half a dozen eggs. 58 cents. Remember to round up. I can move on to my next ingredient, milk, and times this by the cost per ounce. If this states 6 eggs, remember, I want to use the cost per egg then. That's where the units really come into play. So I'll do my next thing with the milk, finding that on my price guide here. Here we have milk homogenized gallon, 4 1-gallon containers, and here's my price. I'll continue on with filling in the information in this price sheet until I have all of the data that I need to continue on then with the purchase order, our next step in our next video.